All right, class, welcome to lesson 1 of spreadsheets. We're going to talk about formatting in your spreadsheet. First of all, a couple of definitions you'll need to know. These are called columns. That's column A, column B, column C, column D. Notice if I click on it, it highlights the entire column. This is called row 1, row 2, row 3. If I click on it, highlights the entire row. If I click on a cell, that is cell C5. C5. Notice that when I click on that cell, the contents of that cell are displayed up here. This is called the formula bar. So as an example, if I typed in equals C5, notice that C5 highlighted over here. These are called marching ants. Marching ants came around C5 because I'm telling cell G5 that I want it to equal cell C5. So if I hit enter right now, what happens is the data that was in cell C5 is now also in cell G5 because that's what I told it to be. I told cell G5 to equal cell C5. This little thing right here is called a fill handle. If I click on that and drag it down, it's going to fill whatever was in that cell. It's going to fill it with that same data below it. You'll notice that it didn't fill it with the number 636940. It filled it with, instead of C5, it filled it with C6. Why did it do that? Because it assumed I wanted him to do that. That's why. Spreadsheets are very smart. And it filled this one with, notice up here it says equals C7, because it assumed that I wanted to do a pattern. Now, if I would have just grabbed this data right here, I'm going to copy and paste it right here. If I were to paste that number right there, notice that that number, look at the formula bar. It's not a formula, it's just that number. Now, if I were to click and drag the fill handle down, it would just copy that number straight down, because all that's in cell H5 is that number, 636940. So when I drag it down, it just copies it down. That's a little bit about spreadsheets, just very quickly, so that when I'm talking, you can understand what I'm saying. But for now, we're going to talk about how to format your cells. So first of all, let's take a look at the data we have. This is the raw data. You're going to click on the link on my website so you can view this same raw data, and then you're going to manipulate it so it looks just like mine looks by the time you're done. First thing I'm going to do is talk to you about how you can insert a row. If you click on row 1, right click on it, I can insert one row above. When I do that, you'll notice that I have a full blank row up here. Above row 1, if I wanted to type in, if I wanted there to be a title that fills all of those cells above there, the way to do that is to type it into cell A1. I'm going to call it Energy Consumption in Illinois. And notice when I do that, it didn't fit in that cell, but that's okay, because I'm going to now click on this and highlight all the way over to cell E1. So I went from A1 to E1, and this button right here is called Merge Cells. It's going to combine all 5 of those cells into one cell. And notice that it's also centered, which is nice. If it wasn't centered, you could click on this and just make sure that it was centered. Notice you can also change text so that it's bolded. You can make it bigger if you want to. I'm going to make it 12-point size. You could change the font if you wanted to. No need to do that. Excuse me. And so that's how you can add format cells and do things like that. Next, we're going to click on cell B, or row B, and we're going to make a couple changes in row B. Well, first of all, before I make some changes, let's make it bold. And also, let's click on cell or column B, hold the shift key down and click on column E. You'll notice I've highlighted columns B through E. This is a quick little shortcut to resize columns. See how those words don't fit in those columns? If you double click on the line right between 2 column headers, it will resize that column, or in this case, all 4 of those columns, so that they were exactly the right size to fit the largest cell that was in that column. So you'll notice that now all of these words fit in there really nicely. We're actually going to change that and make it smaller because I don't like them being quite so big. So we're going to change and get rid of the population and call it just pop. Get rid of the word in. It's a little bit unnecessary. We're going to click on cell C2. Notice how I click on the cell and it appears up here in the formula bar, and I can modify it. I'm going to delete the words energy consumption and the word in. Residential means houses and apartments. So this is how much energy in billions of BTUs that were used in houses in 1960. This right here, or cell D2, I'm going to delete the words energy consumption. Again, commercial means in like stores. That's what commercial means, commerce, places of commerce. Industrial means like factories. So this is the amount of energy that was used in factories in the years 1960 through 2012. You can see that that's the data that I'm using here. There's a website that I got this from. All right, now I'm going to resize these columns again. Notice if I go right here between B and C, see that double line, double arrow, I double click on it, it will make it perfect size. I could do the same thing for this, or again, I could do a shortcut by clicking more than one, holding down Shift key and double clicking, and it'll make all of those things the right size. You'll notice that the title energy consumption just keeps changing based upon the size of my different columns. All right, next thing we're going to do is highlight all of these. Click on this little box right there, right between the columns and the rows. If you click on that, it highlights everything, and I'm doing that because I want to quickly and easily center everything. Notice that it makes all of the things, the text and the data, to be centered. Next thing I want to do is take these numbers, see how these numbers are big numbers, there's no commas between them. We're gonna change the format of those. I clicked on C, I held the Shift key down, clicked on E, that highlighted all three of those columns. Notice that there's this little format button here. You can use this one, click on that, and it shows you number. I want this to be a number, but I don't want those decimal places. So this decreases the decimal places. I'm going to do that twice so that those decimals go away, and now I just have the commas to separate the periods in those numbers so that you can more easily read those. The last thing I'm going to do with this, and this is a really fun thing to do, notice if I scroll down that I can't see the titles anymore. If I scroll down, if you click right here above the row 1, you click on that line, see how it turns into a hand? Drag that, click and drag that down so that it's underneath row 2, and it will make rows 1 and 2 locked. It locks those so that those are like header rows or title rows. And now when I scroll down, those things don't go away, and I can see more easily what the different numbers are. So that's what you're going to do. Go ahead and do exactly what I just did on that same data sheet. Make it your own by making a copy of it into your Google Drive, and then do what I did so that I know you know how to format a spreadsheet.